All right, ready to dive deep into some MySQL?
Always. What are we looking at today?
Today, it's all about debugging those tricky MySQL issues, you know?
Ah, yes. Everyone runs into those at some point.
So, we're going to equip everyone with a super powerful checklist. It's like, imagine being a database detective.
Ooh, I like that. Uncovering clues, cracking cases.
Exactly. And the best part, you don't need to be some tech genius to use it.
Yeah. Whether you're just starting out with MySQL or you've been at it for years, this checklist can really make your life easier.
Totally. So, our guide for this deep dive is this awesome blog post by Kedar Vijayanaperkor.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
It's called What You Need to Debug MySQL Issues, a Checklist. It's on the Change is Inevitable blog.
Catchy name.
Right. And trust me, things are about to get really interesting as we go through this. So, where should we start?
Well, the first stop is always MySQL configuration and status.
Okay, so that's like what? Checking the vital signs of our database,
Exactly. We're
right?
making sure everything's running how it should be.
Gotcha. So, like, how do we do that? Is there a secret code word?
Haha. Not quite, but there are a few important commands.
Okay, spill the beans.
The status command is your best friend.
Status command. Okay, I'm taking notes. What does that tell us?
It gives you like a quick snapshot of your MySQL server's health. Things like how long it's been running, and importantly, what version of MySQL you're using.
Hold on. Why is the version number so important?
Imagine you're trying to fix a car engine, right?
Right.
But you don't even know if it's diesel or gasoline.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to end well.
Exactly. Different MySQL versions have, they have their quirks. And if you're using the wrong steps to fix a problem, you're just going to get more confused.
So we check the version number first. Got it. What's next?
Here's a pro tip. Save those configurations and statuses to different files.
Wait, why? What's the point of that?
It's like having a before and after picture.
Hmm. Okay, explain that. I'm a visual person.
Say you're troubleshooting some performance issue that popped up out of nowhere. Having those saved snapshots, like from before the problem started, can help you see exactly what changed.
Whoa, that's pretty smart. So it's like a time machine for your database.
Exactly. It helps you pinpoint what changed and when, making it way easier to find the root cause.
Okay, I'm sold. So how do we actually save these configurations? Is there some fancy software I need to download?
Nope, just the command line. You can use the meisterresi command,
Okay, MySQL. And then?
and then you add show global variables to output all the variables to a file. And do the same thing for the status information with show global status.
Got it. So 2 commands, 2 files, easy peasy.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some tool out there that can make this even easier.
You know it. There's this awesome tool called Put MySQL Summary.
What was it?
Put MySQL Summary. It's part of the Percona toolkit.
Okay, I've heard of Percona Toolkit. What's so special about this Pucking My School summary thing?
It gathers all that data, like the configuration and status,
Hmm.
and it gives you this nicely formatted report.
So it's like having a personal assistant for my database. Sign me up.
Haha, it's a real time saver, and it gives you a much clearer overview of your whole MySQL environment.
That sounds great. All right, so we've got our vital signs checked. What's the next step in our database detective work?
Next, we're going under the hood to see what MySQL is actually doing. We're talking about the MySQL process list.
Ooh, getting into the nitty-gritty now. Tell me more about this process list.
It's basically like looking into the control room of your database.
Okay, I can picture that. Lots of buttons and flashing lights.
Haha, kinda. You can actually see all the active processes, those threads that MySQL is working on.
So it's a live feed of everything that's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Cool. How do we get to this process list? Is there a secret entrance?
Easier than that. The command is show full process list.
Show full process list. Got it. And that shows us what exactly?
All those active threads, and then for each one, it gives you important info, like what's it doing, how long has it been running, and even what query is it executing.
So if I'm trying to figure out why my database is slow, the process list is a good place to start.
Exactly. It's like spotting a traffic jam from a helicopter. You can quickly see which queries are causing the delays.
Awesome. So we can zoom in and see the problem areas. Any tricks for analyzing all that data?
Definitely. You can use grep to filter the output.
grep, like the command line tool.
Yeah. Let's say you think a certain user or app is causing trouble. You can filter by their host and see exactly what queries they are running.
Whoa, I never thought of using grep on the process list.
It's a lifesaver when you have tons of data. And you can filter by command type, too.
Command type, so like what kind of commands are they running?
Yep. You can see how many threads are doing select, insert, update commands.
Yeah.
Gives you a sense of the overall workload.
Okay, so we've checked our database's vitals and peeked into its control room with the process list. What's next?
Next, we're going deeper We're diving into the engine room. We're talking about the engine inodb status command.
Engine room. Sounds intense.
Don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds. This command unlocks a ton of information about your InnoDB storage engine.
Okay, hold up. Back up a second. What exactly is InnoDB?
You can think of it as the engine that powers your database.
Okay, makes sense.
It manages how data is stored, accessed, how it's protected. And to troubleshoot issues, you have to understand how InnoDB works.
All right, I'm following you. So if the process list is like watching the traffic flow, the engine InnoDB status command is like...
It's like looking at the traffic signals and the lights and seeing how they are working.
That's a great analogy, so it helps us see how everything is being managed behind the scenes.
Exactly. You get a detailed look at transactions, locks, deadlocks, all those important details.
I'm ready to dive in. What's the command again?
It's show engine InnoDB status T.
All right, let's go explore this engine room and see what mysteries we can unravel.
You got it. And don't worry, we'll take it slow, break it down step by step so you know exactly what it all means.
I'm ready. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We just took a trip into the heart of MySQL, checking its vital signs.
Yeah, we even peeked under the hood with the process list and the engine InnoDB status command. Remember those?
Yep, feeling like a pro already.
You're getting there.
Yeah.
But just like, real detectives, we need more than just a magnifying glass.
True, true. What kind of high-tech gadgets do we need?
We need some serious tech to help us really crack these cases wide open. Time to talk about monitoring and observability tools.
Monitoring and observability tools. Okay, those sound pretty fancy.
They are pretty cool. It's like imagine a control center with a giant screen showing you everything happening in your database.
Whoa, I'm picturing like some sci-fi movie with all the blinking lights and graphs.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. These tools give you a real-time look at your MySQL server's performance. You'll see dashboards, charts, graphs, the whole shebang.
So, like, what are some of the big names in this world of database surveillance?
Let's see. Some of the popular ones are Percona monitoring and management, PM.
PMM? Okay, what else?
Prometheus and Datadog. You've probably heard of those.
Yeah, I think so. But those sound like, for huge companies with dedicated IT teams.
Not necessarily. While they can definitely handle those big complex environments, they can also be super useful for smaller setups too.
Okay, so what kind of insights can these tools actually give us? Paint me a picture.
All right, imagine this. You're looking at a dashboard, right? And it shows you key metrics like query throughput.
Query throughput, what's that?
Basically, how many queries your database is handling every second. You can also see connection counts, replication lag, resource usage, all that good stuff.
So you can basically see any bottlenecks or problems before they even become a real issue.
That's the idea. You can be proactive instead of reactive.
I like that. Proactive debugging. But what about seeing patterns over time? Can these tools do that too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the most powerful things about them. They keep track of all that historical data. So you can see if, for example, those spikes in CPU usage are a one-time thing, or if there's a pattern there that you need to fix.
Wow, so much information. But I'm guessing all these amazing features come with a hefty price tag.
Not always. A lot of these tools have free and open source versions that are actually pretty easy to set up.
Oh, really? That's fantastic news.
And you can even set up alerts so you get notified if something goes wrong. Like if disk usage gets too high, or there's suddenly a bunch of slow queries.
It's like a personal assistant for my database, always keeping me in the loop.
Exactly. It's all about staying informed and being proactive.
I'm totally convinced I need to check these tools out. But remember how we talked about MySQL not existing in a vacuum? Like it's running on a server within an operating system?
Right. And that environment plays a big role in how well MySQL performs.
Exactly. So what's the next item on our checklist?
It's time to zoom out a little bit and look at the overall health of the system where MySQL is running. We call this checking system statuses.
System statuses, got it. What do we need to look at specifically?
The usual suspects: uptime, disk usage, memory, and CPU usage.
Makes sense, like the basic vital signs of our server.
Exactly. They give you a good overview of how the system is doing.
Are there specific commands we need to know for checking those things?
Luckily, Linux makes it pretty easy.
Yeah.
Uptime tells you how long the system's been running. DFH shows you disk space. FreeH gives you memory usage. And then there's top to see which processes are using the most CPU.
So it's uptime, DFH, FreeHH, and top.
Got it. But that's a lot of commands to run.
Don't worry, there's a tool for that too. Percona Toolkit to the rescue again.
Percona Toolkit has everything. What's this magical tool called?
This one's called Pete's Summary. It grabs all that system level info and puts it into a nice little summary for you.
So instead of running all those separate commands, we can just use psummary and get everything in one place. Yeah.
Exactly. Much easier, right? And it can help you spot any red flags that might be affecting your MySQL performance.
This Percona toolkit is amazing. Is there anything it can't do?
Well, I wouldn't say it can do everything, but it does have a lot of useful tools. And here's another one you might like, PT Stock.
PPT stock, what's that one for?
It's like setting a trap for those really tricky bugs that only seem to show up at the worst possible times.
Ooh, it sounds sneaky.
It automatically collects diagnostic data when certain conditions are met.
So it's like instead of constantly monitoring everything, we can tell it to only spring into action when something specific happens.
Exactly. Like if the CPU usage hits 90% or you get a specific error in the log, boom, PT Stock grabs all the info you need to figure out what's going on.
I like it. Proactive debugging at its finest. So we've checked our system vitals, we've got our monitoring set up, and now we've even set some traps. What else is on the checklist?
Sometimes the clues we need are buried a little deeper. We've got to go spelunking into the kernel log.
Kernel log, what's that? Sounds pretty serious. Think of it as the system's diary. It keeps track of everything happening at the lowest level. You know, hardware failures, those scary kernel panics.
Kernel panics, yikes.
Yeah, not fun.
Ugh.
And even those out-of-memory issues that can crash your server.
Okay, so the kernel log has all the juicy details about what's been going on with the system. But where do we find this log?
It depends a bit on what type of Linux you're using, but some common places are the output of the demes command, the varlog messages file, or varlog syslog.
So it's a little bit of a scavenger hunt, but if it has the clues we need, it's worth it.
Exactly. And once you've found it, look for anything that happened around the same time as your MySQL issue. That's usually where the most important clues are hiding.
We've checked the system vitals, set up monitoring, splunked through the kernel log. What's next?
Time to look at the MySQL binary log.
Binary log. Okay, you've got to explain that one. What is it?
Think of it like watching the security camera footage for your database.
Ooh, I like that. It's like a record of everything that's happened.
Exactly. It tracks all the commands that are run on your MySQL server and any changes they made to the data.
So if you think a particular command or change messed things up, you can go back and see exactly what happened.
That's the idea. It's super useful for tracking down those hard-to-find issues.
But these logs must be huge, right? Especially on a busy server. How do we even begin to make sense of all that data?
Don't worry, we have a tool for that. It's called MySQL log.
MySQL log, okay. And what does that do?
It decodes that binary log data into something you can actually read and understand.
So we can basically replay the events and see exactly what happens step by step.
Exactly. Pretty cool, right? And that brings us to our final item on the checklist.
Oh, I was thinking we were done. What else is there?
This one's a little more straightforward and might actually surprise you. We need to look at any recent changes that were made on the system.
So it's like the classic, did you turn it off and on again? But instead of power cycling, we're looking for recent software updates or something.
You got it. Sometimes a MySQL issue can be traced back to something as simple as a system update, a new app you installed, or even just changing a configuration file.
Makes sense. It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. So before you go deep diving into complex debugging, it's always worth checking if a recent change could be the culprit.
Okay, so how do we do that? Is there a log file for system changes?
Well, it depends on your operating system. On Red Hat systems like CentOS, you can use the yum history command.
Yum history. Got it. What about other systems?
If you're on a Debian-based system like Ubuntu, you'll want to look at the varlogapphistory.log file and varlogdpkg.log.
So different systems, different commands and files, but the goal is the same, to figure out if any recent changes might have messed with our MySQL setup.
Exactly. You never know. A quick fix could be just reverting a recent change or tweaking a setting. It's all about connecting those dots.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today. We've gone from basic checks to high-tech monitoring tools and even spelunking through system logs.
It's been quite a journey, but we're not quite done yet. There's one more part to this deep dive where we'll wrap everything up and leave you with some food for thought.
Can't wait. See you there. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring this really cool MySQL debugging checklist, and we've covered a lot of ground, from basic checks to advanced tools and techniques.
Yeah, we've really gone from zero to hero with our debugging skills. Remember how we started with the basic checks, like the MySQL configuration and status?
Yeah, and then we moved on to the process list and the error log. Those are like the first things you should always look at. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor, right? They check your vital signs first.
Exactly. But sometimes those basic checks don't tell you the whole story. That's when we got to bring out the big guns, like the engine indodd status command and the slow query log.
And of course, we can't forget about those awesome tools from the Bracona toolkit, like Apply to My School Summary, Apply to Query Digest, and Plate Stock. Those are like our secret weapons for debugging.
Yeah, those tools can really save you a ton of time and headaches. And they can make you look like a real MySQL wizard.
And remember how we talked about looking at the bigger picture too, like checking the kernel log and seeing if any recent changes on the system might be causing problems?
Right, because sometimes the issue isn't even with MySQL itself. It could be something in the environment that's messing things up.
So we've got our checklist, we've got our tools, and we've got our detective hats on. What final words of wisdom do you have for our listeners?
Be curious and don't give up. Every error message is like a clue, and every performance bottleneck is a puzzle to be solved. And the more you learn about how MySQL works, the easier it'll be to tackle any problem that comes your way.
Beautifully said. And you know, this whole deep dive has gotten me thinking. We've been focusing on how to fix problems that already exist. But what if we could prevent those problems from happening in the first place?
The dream. Building systems that are just naturally more resilient and self-healing. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, imagine databases that are basically immune to errors.
That's a tough challenge, but it's something that people are working on. There's some really exciting things happening in the MySQL community, like automated testing and chaos engineering.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see what the future holds for MySQL. But for now, I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the world of MySQL debugging.
And remember, every error message is a chance to learn and grow. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and dive into the fascinating world of MySQL.
Happy debugging, everyone. And don't forget to subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations into all sorts of cool tech topics.